This is an open letter to Mr. Vince Everett Ellison. This is my second letter to you, sir. I'm sorry. The first one was I was a little still emotional for the first letter, so I needed to make another letter for you with regards to the conversation that you have had with Mr. Tucker Carlson. Great conversation. Uh, for the first 35 minutes, I was a little lost, and then I got it. Here's the thing, sir. Uh, First of all, racism comes with a package of not just humans, just wolves and trees and all of that I covered. Racism starts from there. It's not always racism based on visual cue. Sometimes it's racism based on scent cues, smells. Sometimes it's racism based on wolves are racist based on not recognizing the other wolf's smell as the smell of his pack, so attacking the other wolf because that's racism. Two wolves attacking each other because they're from two different packs. So it's very deep. My experience, here's my experience. This is when I say you have your experience is a little warped as opposed to the experience of the majority of folks who are minorities in their land. I believe your experience has been warped because you were in a cul-de-sac of people of your own complexion, where people of your own complexion were in the majority. So, being born and being brought up in a small cul-de-sac where people of your complexion were in the majority has warped your experience. My experience, I came on this planet in a part of the world where religion is still very much in demand by the society. The society is very religious and wants to be very religious until the time they feel they don't want to be very religious. But the point is as it is, the religion is very important over there because race-wise we are all the same, so religion, I guess, becomes important. But then you come somewhere where races are not the same, and then suddenly race becomes important. So it, these things, visual cues, religion has been added. As an animal, you look for chemical cues. Now human beings have added cultural cues, which separates tribes from tribes, and based on the color of skin or based on their religion, and cultural cues have been added to the chemical cues to determine one's affiliation to what tribe. So all of these added together is that in some places in the world, you know, it's more common to be a religious minority, and in some places in the world, it's more common to be a racial minority. I mean, I'm talking, think about Singapore or Hong Kong or, these small countries, Switzerland, London, these small areas in which many races are blending, New York. This is, you have a lot of racial minorities, as well as probably religious minorities, but in some places in the world, there have, they're minorities, when they're racially the same, they look for other cues, in this case, cultural cues, in order to become racist to each other, or really, in the sense of religion, become, very discriminatory, prejudice against each other, because they're from different religions. Again, it's a matter of, goes back to the matter of survival. Racism or discrimination, I discriminate against you with my brother here, so we survive and you hopefully, but probably not. The whole idea is survival and considering which tribe you belong to, which tribe is stronger in order to survive. That's a very deep, deep roots, has very deep roots in all creatures on earth, starting from the trees. So you can't tell me that you can get rid of this racism by not by law, but you can get rid of it by either, I'm going to turn the other cheek and be nice to you so I can sweet talk my way into your heart. Doesn't work. It's very deep. Racism is very deep. Here's what the best case, or in case of if you don't respect my space as a free man, I'm going to use my 38 on you. That doesn't work either for the minority, because I came from a place where the religious minority, I was from a religious minority which was less than 1% of the population of the society of that country. I am from a religious minority which is less than 1%. Very small minority. And you, Mr. Ellison, you're from a land which you are part of a 10% to 15% minority of brown skins in North America. So you're part of a bigger minority than me, but still a minority, a 10 to 15% minority. The rules don't change. The rule is that the majority may probably are getting their freedom from God. The majority probably are getting their freedom from God, but the minority can only get their freedom, ask for their freedom from the majority. The God business doesn't work for us. That because we get our freedom from God and yes, the majority must respect us. No, the majority doesn't feel like respecting you. Now what? You want to fight it? Gaza. Right now in West Asia, Gaza, Israel, Palestinians, Israel, you know, same thing. You cannot fight for if you're the minority, you cannot fight for your freedom. If you're a minority, you are the minority, one of the minorities, you cannot fight for your freedom. Because that's suicide. Forget about it. People in the Kurdish people, these mountain people in Central Asia, where they can never be independent because they don't have a warm water port. The Kurdish people. There are a series of people, and they're always fighting amongst themselves because they're mountain people. The idea that these guys can be independent is nonsense. Is you're a minority of sitting on top of some mountains in West Asia and can't be independent. The conditions are not there. You're a minority between two majorities. My point is this, sir. Majority may be getting their rights from God. The minority gets their rights from the majority. Or else they have to fight the majority, and that's a losing battle. That's committing suicide. So, what the civil rights did, and the difference between civil rights in the United States and what the South Africans had to do is that South Africans had the majority. The majority of South Africans were black. It's a black continent. So the majority it wasn't like ANC didn't fight the Europeans off the land. It wasn't ANC. It was, the majority were black, and eventually they will, at one point, they will come together and fight off uh, those who are not us, and they should have no claim to land because they just landed here. We've been here at least for a couple of hundred to a couple of thousand years. Again, the right of Palestinians can only come from the Israelis because the Palestinians are the minority. But they have been left to be a minority. They cut away Jordan, they cut away Egypt. Who put up these borders? They cut away Syria. So after you cut away all these Arabs to little pieces, then you can rape one of them right in front of the other ones, and nobody can do shit. And this is exactly what they're doing. It's literally Europeans are, raping Arabs in West Asia, and these other Arab nations are literally looking at each other. It's like we can't do anything. Sorry. Again, that means the right of they're minority because they're technologically they're minority. Israel has top of the line technology imported from North America and Western Europe. Top of the line. The technology, how to, the scientists and everything, the production plant is put into Israel. They produce and you know they use. The point is this: the minority can only get their rights from the majority through a legal system, and the majority has to be willing to give them the right, that right, or some rights. Majority doesn't have to. In evolutionary speaking, on your planet, the majority never wanted to give any rights to the minorities because that's how you survive and the other doesn't. You form a pack. You say, in this pack we are the majority, and after we get into office, we get rid of the minority, which lost the election. Again, it, it, the thing is, forming these packs, these racist packs, in order to survive, it's a very old tradition on Earth, amongst on all planets, amongst all the living creatures. There is this racism, what you call racism. That means survival of the fittest tribe with the most members. That's called racism. This is very innately in your bones, and it will not go away by force of a 38 if you're the minority, or by uh, being kind and nice. No, no, no. Only petition to change the laws, then ask whoever is holding the bat to force everyone in the society to obey by those laws. That's how the gays got some rights in Western Hemisphere, by getting involved with the government and demanding the government to reconsider their position in the society, accept them for who they are. Now they've gone a little overboard, but acceptance shouldn't be any problem with acceptance. So the thing is, again, the gays did the same thing, had to go through a legal process. If you're a fucking minority, it's suicide to do anything else. Being nice and taking it up the ass of the whole time is not going to change their heart. It's just not. I mean, look at it this way: the black milkmaids, I believe they call them, or wet nurse, the black wet nurse they call them. You would think that a wet nurse who has, given her own milk to the kid and raised the kid, you would think as soon as the kid has any say, he would demand, if being nice was any factor in anti-racism, in abolishing racism, but just being nice and be kind and be better than them. And if that was the case, these vet nurses would have been set free as soon as the kid realizes who had given her milk and raised her. But that doesn't happen. You see these wet nurses that are in the same family for multiple wet nurse slaves, are in the same, owned by the same family for multiple generations. And you're thinking to yourself, so this was a wet nurse couldn't be kinder by raising the children of this family, plantation owner, and she's raised 3, 4 generations, but or 2 generations at least, but no freedom. Please, no. When you read, as I was in a minority of less than 1% in the society, it's literally down to the majority whether they let you breed or not, in every sense of that word. To let you breed or not, it's in the right of the majority of that society. Whether they want to give you that right or not is up to them. And they may change their mind overnight. Whether you have the right to breed or not, they may change their ideas overnight. Up to last night, they thought you are allowed to breed. This morning, they don't think you should any longer breed. If this is the majority, it can do that. It has done that. It's like the night of the broken glass. If suddenly one day you wake up and the majority are in the street and saying that you and your kind cannot breed. Oh fuck. What do you mean? Yeah, it's just they pulled the rule out of their ass and they said you're not allowed to breed. So as a minority, you have to take it easy. You have to relax, and then you have to invoke, go ask the government to, you know, pass some laws, so the majority would give you some rights. You black conservatives like Mr. Thomas. I mean, the Supreme Court judge. Are you kidding me? The gentleman was happy with some money on the side. I vote for you guys. Just take care of me, and I take care of you. That's the thing. And you cannot in any way justify yourself by saying that no, the way they went is wrong. We have to be sufficient and independent, and we have to demand our rights as a minority. No, as a minority, you don't demand your right. You ask, you hope, you wish, and hopefully the majority will accept. But again, they don't have to. Right now, as my position, I'm part of a very small minority. In in this case, not a religious minority, but a status minority that the majority doesn't really have to care, so they don't. Well, again, the majority, you have to petition the majority to have some rights, whether it's a national majority, whether it's a religious majority. When you're living in their jurisdiction, the only thing you can do is plead for fair practices. I'm sorry, I'm gonna go over a few of the things that you said that I at this moment. So again, this I think it's important to repeat that you said you know the tree from the fruit it bears, and because the fruits and you associated the condition of black people today in North America, you associate their condition with civil rights, and you say the cause of the conditions that the, the black skins in North America are afflicted with in North America, the cause of that was civil rights. No, 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 no. The cause of their growth up to civil rights periods was the civil rights. After that, they killed off all the real leaders and thinkers of the, killed or compromised all the leaders of the civil rights business, and ever since the money, instead of going to teach black kids how to read, has been going to wars for the pink skins. So, and these so-called leaders of black skins never had any intentions, have apparently any intentions of mentioning that, hey, forget about reparations. Could you spend some money on teaching our kids some skills that they can survive in your society? If we don't want reparation, why don't you just, educate our kids as the government? Forget about reparations. Just educate our kids. But even that is not possible because defense budget is 20 times education budget. So this is a civil rights issue. You don't speak of this. Sir, 38 is not going to solve your problem. Your people getting a really good education to be able to survive, and even universal basic income if necessary for them to do what they like, what they are equipped for all day long, exercise, sports if you have to, if you want to, and universal basic income, that is the solution for them. Education, mandatory education, until people are 50, 60, 70, education all the whole time. I went to educational institution, and I was one of the like three oldest people, and we were a little people were a little unsure why we were there at later age in our life. The small minority of these guys who are, much older than the rest of the uh, people getting educated in that institution, and the result of this is the result of not advocating for continuous education through life. Give them universal basic income and educate them throughout their life. What's the problem with that? Give them universal basic income and have them exercise all day long. They have to show up somewhere and play some kind of sports for themselves. They no need to, be commercially sustainable. They play sports and they receive a universal basic income for doing something. Train or, play or whatever. But you're not advocating for that. You're advocating for a 38. I don't want my people to be educated. I don't demand good people, youngsters becoming adults without sellable skills. I don't demand that. But what I do demand is I should be able to keep my 38 and my Bible. Again, about the MLK, was he a communist? Of course, probably, because those who did believe in Christ and Bible, these were the guys who, went the way of Ham, started explaining to black people that you said it yourself, started explaining to black people that you deserve it because you're the son of Ham. This is what the church people were saying at that time. So of course MLK couldn't be a real preacher, Christian, because he told people to get off their knees. They're not the son of Ham. And you consider this is a bad idea because he was associated with communists or other countries, that's a bad thing? No. Again, I said this before. Your founding fathers, the French and the Spanish, backed them against the British. They weren't on their own because they were a minority in the British Empire. If the French had not backed the founding fathers, the British would have executed all of them, won the war and executed all of them. So don't tell me a minority can fight back the majority for their rights. They can't. There are too many examples. From Branch Davidian to Jonestown to many examples. The majority, if they don't feel uncomfortable about you, they're going to do something about it. You better, walk on eggshells around the majority, as long as hopefully, and they hopefully give you some rights to exist. No, God, your rights doesn't come from God. Your right comes from the majority. My rights comes from the majority. You're the black folks at the moment are at the bottom of every socioeconomic charts, since civil rights. Again, because their leaders were not concerned about their education. They were concerned about, you know, not them not being lynched by mobs. And after the civil rights, the leaders were very, you know, it was a formality. Every time that mass murder happens, one of these, black pimps, Mr. Sharpton or Snoop or Don King or Jesse Jackson would show up and, sing a few songs and do a few dance and calm things down. Well, if there are too many disturbances, then maybe you should do the correct thing and see maybe the public needs to be educated. Maybe just look at the educational system, see what is it putting out. I don't care how much money you spend on it. If you're not pumping out people who can read or who like to read, then educational system is not doing its job. If educational system pumps out people who, are not familiar with any reasonable skills, sellable skills, then that's not a good educational system. Why aren't you investing in changing that educational system? Then wars, then the military. It's like defense budget is 20 times education budget and the housing budget. The defense budget is 20 times the health budget. Somebody is getting their beak wet in this defense business. Isn't that clear? And this is the right of your people. Your people should not ask for a right of having a 38 and their Bible. No, they should have ask the right of having their children either pay the husband enough so the woman can stay home and raise the children and teach the children everything. Hopefully, if she knows her anything herself, either pay the man enough so the woman can stay home and teach the children, or if the woman also has to work because the wages are so low, both the parents have to work. In that case, please have the but if, and the family are forced to send their kids to government education. Make sure the government is doing a good job in educating these folks. You don't say that. You don't demand that. Nothing. Forget about it. Give me my 38 and my Bible. I defend my freedom. Yeah. I have a trip to Gaza. See how defending freedom looks like from the other end. From the wrong end of the gun. This is not what has happened, that the education budget is 1/20th of the defense budget. This is not the result of the civil rights movement. This is after civil rights. They brought pimps, they put pimps in charge of black people. They recognize these pimps as the leaders, and then nobody has ever, since none of these black leaders have asked why the defense budget is so high and our education of the black kids is so unimportant. None of them. Are you asking? You're not asking. Nobody is asking that. This what you're seeing is the design of military industrial complex, which doesn't care about the education of the children. But then the same military industrial complex, when they're trying to recruit, they are grumbling, whining about the low education of the recruits, or not the recruits that are not sufficiently educated, or well behaved, or motivated, or fit. Well, you haven't invented that. That's the reason. Military is whining about the recruits, and the reason is, well, military's budget is 20 times the education budget, so this is what you're getting out of your education system. Now you have to recruit this, and you're whining about it. Yeah, of course. It has come to sort of like, it has reached the point, the ridiculous point of the systems are so sophisticated that the recruits who are supposed to operate these systems are not cannot operate those systems because the recruits are not sufficiently educated, can't read. Are you serious? So therefore now they're contractors, not the result of the educational system, but they're outside contractors who become mercenaries who operate these systems for the military industrial complex. That's where Mr. Eric Prince comes into the picture. Sort of like the populace are not educated enough to operate these sophisticated systems. So forget about the common recruit. We have these things fired up and ready to go, these by mercenaries. Salute. You mentioned the drug use among the black folks in North America. Drug use is high, and you associate that with demon this and demon that, demon culture, and bad idols. And I agree with that, the bad idols. But here's the thing, sir. Bad idols are bad. Agree with you. But here's the thing, sir. Sophisticated people don't choose bad idols. Sophisticated people don't choose bad idols. sophisticated people are produced with a very good educational system. So if your educational system is good, it produces sophisticated people. If not bright, at least they have high taste. They're sophisticated. At least they heard of things, know things. And the result of that is they choose better idols. A good education produces more sophisticated people. Sophisticated people choose better idols. End of story. You know, these rappers that are, extremely vulgar in many instances, they have always been there. Believe me, vulgarity is not the problem. Vulgarity is always there, has been there. It's part of the society. Every city has a red light district. Except the Islamic world, the whole city is the red light district. But the point is this, that the problem is not the vulgarities. The problem is how many people are attracted to the vulgarity. If a large number of people are attracted to the vulgarity, well, that means the educational system has an issue. It's not producing sophisticated people. So the majority are not sophisticated. So the majority are attracted to vulgarity. Back to the educational system. How good is your education? How good is your children's education? The and then you went a step further, that why these black leaders, why these not black leaders, these presidents, why they embrace these, vulgarities, these rappers and, singers who sing vulgar songs and behave in a very vulgar manner. The, the leaders of the supposedly democracy have to embrace them, because these are the people that the populace are embracing. The problem is not the real leader embracing whoever pop, the populace are embracing, whoever the majority is embracing. That's not the problem. The majority is embracing this idol, however vulgar he or she is, and the democratic leader has to embrace the same idol, but probably behind everybody's back is cursing at himself that he has to embrace such a stupid idol. But the point is this, believe me, the leader probably is intelligent enough not to, really like that idol. But his people are liking that idol. The solution, you want your people to like better idols? Educational system. You educate them well, they become sophisticated thinkers, they choose better idols, then your democratically elected leaders also at that point have the option of embracing appropriate idols. All goes back to the education. This is not a top to bottom problem. The people at the top are not promoting worship of these vulgar idols. They're following. As that in a democracy, the leader cannot lead. The leader has to follow. That's the stupidity of democracy. That the leader has to follow because, people vote. And the leader has to be the follower of people. Whatever people want, the leader has to execute. And that's democracy. But so the leader is actually the follower of the majority. And the majority is nuts. The majority is a mob. The leader has to follow. And one thing the leader can do is that try to tone down the temperature, tone down the saber rattling, and start educating his people, so the people will become sophisticated over generations, and they choose better leaders. But the problem, sir, when you put Ronald Reagan in the office and he tries to, he brings down all kind of unions and he devalues labor. When you devalue labor as much as Ronald Reagan did by breaking the unions, that's the end of it. That's the end of education, because if you know you have devalued the education by telling educators that, yeah, you have to live on shit. Here's your paycheck, and it's basically you have to live on shit, as compared to a wealthy person in society. This is going to be your humble income, because you don't have a union, because we can pay you very little and get away with it. And that means people who are less than qualified, the lower the income of a job, the less qualified people will apply for it. You know, if the pay is not good, good people are not going to apply for it. When I say good, I mean qualified people. When the pay is shitty, people, it's all the scale, right? Higher paying jobs, more, a lot more people apply, and only the better qualified ones get in. Low paying jobs, fewer number of people apply, and few of probably all of them get in, but they're not very smart, because they tried getting those higher paying jobs, they couldn't. Many of them, I'm sorry, a few teachers who are there for the love of the job, majority are not there, they're there for a paycheck. And believe me, if they qualified as a secretary and made double what they're making as a teacher, they believe me, they would become secretaries tomorrow, or anybody who's willing to pay them as a secretary. Back to the drug use. Drug use, sir, I started about the drug use, is the result of the educational system. Education, orientation in life is a part of the educational system. One of the jobs of the educational system is to orient the student in life. Which direction? Where am I going? Am I enjoying where I'm going? Where I'm going, does where I'm going as a student, does it match my abilities and or not? And that orientation towards life is if it's not there as part of the education system, yes, your children are going to start using drugs later on in life, because they haven't been oriented well. They have been educated for something that they are not at, they are they have no interest in, because what they do have interest in, uh, they can't make money out of, because there's no value in physical aspects of labor any longer, since automation and mechanization and AI, and now quite soon there's not going to be any cognitive uh, jobs available either. So up to this point there was no need for any physically demanding jobs, and all the physically demanding jobs were considered as low skill labor, and low skill means low income. Just because the job is physical and doesn't need any expertise or cognitive abilities, it's called considered low skill. Shit pay. Low skill, shit pay. Well, what if the guy can only handle that low skill job? Does he have to remain in poverty all his life or her life? What is that all he or she has to offer? That just physical ability to move around. What if that's all the abilities they have? Do they have to suffer in poverty? Or is it possible that your educational system instead of trying to push this person into physics and mathematics or blah blah blah, they should try to push people according to their abilities. That's the orientation in life. Push them according to their abilities, and then later on, the system would have opportunities of good income based on people's abilities. Again, that would be now we're going to communist territory, but well, it is what it is because you consider it as a communist territory because we are saying that people have different abilities. Not everybody can become a doctor or an engineer. Many can only become cashiers and shorthand cooks, and that's all the abilities they have. Why should they suffer all their life in poverty if that's the only ability they have, the only ability they have to execute in life? The idea is, yeah, you can. Then the communist way went to saying that, yeah, they should all earn the same income, the doctor and the shorthand cook. If not the same, at least it should be reasonable. Within, a doctor should earn 20 times a shorthand cook, 10 times a shorthand cook. You know, not 20,000 times a shorthand cook. This disparity has come about because uh, regulation is not there, because none of these black leaders ever questioned why you know why the income disparity, why uh, certain jobs in the society pay so well, but what if my people don't have those abilities? Don't Here's the thing with reserving some seats in the system, in universities and here and there, reserving some seats for the minorities. I maybe not. The idea that if even if they don't have the ability, they should be taught to pick up this skill in life. That's become a surgeon. If even if the ability is not there, the cognitive ability is not there, you have to become a surgeon, and we are going to give you the grades to pass you as a surgeon. You bring down the standard instead of saying that no, maybe you don't need to become a surgeon. You go play in your neighborhood sports team, and we pay you a good salary. We pay you a surgeon salary just because you're a member of society, and this is your skill, that the skill that you have. You're good with your body, not much with your mind. That's not a sin. That shouldn't be considered a sin in your society that deserves such a punishment of living in poverty all your life. This is what you should demand for your people. Not let me have my 38 and my Bible. You should demand people be treated fairly and have just as much possibility of making a having a good life as a shorthand cook as they can as a surgeon. Maybe a little better as a surgeon, not too much. Right now, a shorthand cook is living in a house with 5 roommates, and a surgeon is living in his own private island. As far as religions advocating for freedom, here's the thing. That's the thing that you say, I want my Bible and my gun, so but I want, freedom. And then Bible, it's holding two opposite things, believing two opposite things at the same time. Freedom and religions don't don't match. It's the exact opposite. Religion is dogma. It's just, it's this is what we believe, and it's not going to change in over time. We make sure we have this book, and we only let King James edit it, and after that we don't let anybody else edit it. And that's dogma. And the freedom is basically individuality. That's the exact opposite. It's like for every problem that I encounter, I will find my own solution. I'm not going to apply the dogma. For every problem I encounter, I try to find a new solution or appropriate solution. That's freedom. So this idea that you say, no, 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 in the Bible said we are free. No, no, in the Bible, the whole book, left and right, they're talking about how to treat, your your maid who you made into your concubine, or now how to treat your concubine who has become your maid. How the whole Bible is, the majority of it, sprinkled in it, has about race, how racism has, you know, xenophobic ideas, and the old one worse, the newer one still has it. So this idea that my Bible gives me freedom, and my Bible, as far as MLK's infidelity, well, Bill Maher has a saying, sir. He says men are only limited as far as their options. Men are only something like that. Men are limited to their options. That means, a guy who doesn't cheat on his wife is not because he's a great guy. Maybe he doesn't have had any opportunities to cheat on his wife. You know, this idea that men are created to reproduce as much as possible. So the idea that you go and say, no, 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 everybody should be as, you know chaste and restrained as my ugly uncle, it's nonsense. People are as loyal as their options. He was a charismatic guy, leader, did his thing, and a lot of women were attracted to him. So a lot of women put out. I don't hold it against him. At least, hopefully he has produced a couple of children besides the ones with his wife that have helped the black community, because he was more intelligent than average. I'm sure you would agree. So average in the black community. So I think, the more kids he has had with more women, I think at least that's a good idea. J. Edgar Hoover, J. Edgar Hoover keeping the king's infidelity evidence secret. That's what they do. That's the whole point of it. That's not because J. Edgar Hoover was a good guy. That's because J. Edgar Hoover, or in cahoots with Martin Luther King. These are they don't, you know, they don't show the evidence in Sunday Times. They don't do that. They hold the evidence in order to blackmail the guy. and they weren't able to. The whole thing that they had these evidence, but it didn't come out, and eventually they had to resort to killing him, is because I have a feeling Mr. Hoover had the evidence, tried to put pressure on him, and he resisted. He said, "Go ahead, tell him about the women." I have a feeling that's why you hold on to evidence. And after they killed him, there was no reason to, they would have created a lot of headache for themselves by releasing the evidence for MLK's infidelities. They would have created more headache for themselves, because now they already had their people in place as that they want, those people that they could do business with. You know, Minister Farrakhan is somebody they continuously have done business with. You know, so controlled opposition. So once these people got into the position of leadership, the people who, the deep state or the civil servants had an understanding, or J. Edgar Hoover he had an understanding with whoever remained after Malcolm X and Nation of Islam, became the leader of Nation of Islam. The FBI thought they could deal with Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and this and that and the other after killing off the real leaders of the civil rights. If they had communist ideas, again, back to the communist ideas, I'm sure he did, because the Christian ideas, they were justifying enslavement of black people. The preachers were justifying the enslavement of their flock by bringing up ham and shit. You said it. So they were communists, which they had a lot of, you know, throw the first stone if you haven't committed. Who killed King? Martin Luther King? Well, the Anglo-Saxons, we can say Anglo-Saxon capitalists killed Martin Luther King. These are people who, they love their capitalism. They're really racist. Anglo-Saxons colonized the whole planet, and they're very racist. That's why you colonize people when you're racist. You think you're better than them. You have the right to their land because you're better. And unless you think you're a lot better, you don't feel like colonizing people. And very shallow people think they're better at everything. Some are better at something, some other better at another thing. You got to be very shallow to think you're a supreme being. You're better than everything, better in everything than everybody else. So yeah, the fraternity of the Anglo-Saxon, they call them WASPs, white, uh, the whole WASP, Protestant, white, Anglo-Saxon, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. They capitalists, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant capitalists. These are the people that, they really are not happy about civil rights, because civil rights means you're not on top, that somehow you're all equal. Capitalism doesn't believe in equality. Again, shorthand cook cannot make as much as a surgeon and has to remain in poverty all his life, because I guess he's from Ham. As far as for the one world government, I think it's not a good. It is a good idea for the minorities. One world government is a good idea for minorities. It's just that the WASP, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants want to own that one world government. That's why when the whole United Nations, uh, when the whole United Nations votes against Israel, the WASP, the leader of the WASP, that would be North, you know, the WASP in North America, and then the real WASP of the British island, are the only one who is standing against the world. You see what I'm going with it? So the one world government in which the WASP is on top, that no, no, that's the problem that the rest of the planet is having right now. You know, the WASP want Israel where it is with the makeup that it has. That's why they're not allowing those brown people into Israel, because they say no, these brown people cannot come in, because I don't know why. I don't know why. If you can find out why brown people cannot, all of them who are residing in the West Bank and in Gaza, why they cannot be just absorbed into Israel and stop the killing, if you can find out why they can't just be absorbed in Israel, then you understand the idea behind what it is to be a minority. Find Mr. Ellison, find out why Israelis do not allow the brown people in Gaza and the West Bank to melt into the Israeli society. Find out why they won't allow that. Then you come to the conclusion of what is a minority, and then you find out that, yes, like me, you find out that, yes, the minority's right is only in the hand of the majority. Majority may have gotten the rights from God. Minority get the rights from the majority, or else they die, as they've been doing in Gaza and the West Bank, and in Lebanon, and in Syria. Here's the thing: they're the minority because the whole of North America and Western Europe is standing behind Israel. That's why the Arabs, although larger in numbers, all those Arab nations, they're a minority as compared to the whole of North America and Western Europe. Israel has full support of the whole of North America and Western Europe. That's the support of, at least 1 billion people. That's the support of 1 billion white people in North America and Western Hemisphere is behind Israel. 1 billion high technology. The Palestinians have the support of about maybe 500,000 brown people of Middle East, brown skins of Middle East, with low-grade technology. So that's the real majority-minority paradigm in the Middle East. And the Gaza are even a smaller minority. People living inside Israel, that Israel doesn't want them to live there, are even a small minority. There are like 2-3 million of them. A majority of 1 billion white people, pink skins of North America and Western Europe, concentrating in wiping out a minority of 500,000 brown skins in West Asia. So one world government is good if, for especially minorities like me and you, one world government is a good idea. As long as the people who run the fucking thing are equal, have equal say, are in United Nations, and nobody has veto power, and the majority gets their way, and the majority is going to be with minorities. And they can govern the world. But not if Anglo-Saxons get on top. That's the worst case scenario. Not if one race gets on top. And right now, Anglo-Saxons have been trying to stay on top for the past 100 years. That's the whole idea behind Korean War and the Vietnam War and all the wars in Africa and South Africa and Israel. And Israel is the hand of the Anglo-Saxons in the Middle East. Unfortunately, the Jewish folks have been manipulated in being, in the mafia they call it, the, the literally the hitman. Every mafia family has one or two hitmen that they go to. Israel has become the hitman of, for Uncle Sam's managers. The big guys are sitting in New York. The real leaders of the mob are sitting in New York and Washington. Israel is just a hitman. I'm not sure if it's worth it. I still I've never really understood the idea of a hitman. One world government is good for everybody, but as long as it's inclusive and it's not led by Anglo-Saxons. Atheism is natural eventually after all people calm down with religion. Atheism is natural because it's a natural evolution of scientific thinking. You reach atheism. The natural evolution of scientific thinking leads to atheism. So the thing is, you want good education for your people so your people can be sophisticated. But remember, sophisticated people usually become atheists. Usually. There are other names for it, but they will choose sophisticated leaders. And they will choose sophisticated idols. Your culture has been going downhill because your people have not been educated well. They haven't been oriented in life well. They graduate from high school and the only thing they know well is their penis or their vagina. That's the only thing they know well. The rest of it was just a blur. And then you say, these unsophisticated people listen to these idols singing about their penis and their vaginas. So what's the problem with that? This is not a top-down issue. This is a down-up issue. Educate your people, they will choose better idols. Here's the thing about race. You cannot be forced to like the other races, but by law, the best case scenario is that by law you force people to tolerate each other. So you can't end racism. That's innate. The only thing you can do is by love force people to tolerate each other. And that's as far as you can push people to go. Tolerate each other. That's as far as you can push people. From racism, all you can expect is tolerance because of the law. Do not look for love and affection and like. Don't even ask for it. Maybe sometimes happens between individuals, but it's not races don't have a love lust. Just like people with different religions don't have a love lust for each other. They can only tolerate each other, and that's the best. That's the best you can hope for. And the limits of the law says how people should tolerate each other. Period. That's the base you can hope for. I have a suggestion for you, Mr. Ellison, as a brother. Sir, you should travel a lot. Go to the Middle East, go to Africa, go to China, go to Southeast Asia. Try to be minority more. Just don't be happy that you're a minority in some suburb in Virginia or wherever you are, and people treat you nice and people treat you okay or help you. No, 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 you're not getting it. You stay out of people's way, they stay out of your way, but in general, to understand how deep this race and religion and these identifying markers, how deep they go, start traveling. Go to India, then go to China, go to Nigeria. You can only get the correct picture if you start traveling. So, and you can do your show on the road if you want. You have a podcast. You can do your show on the road because almost, you know, at least 10 to 20% of the population of any country on the planet speaks English. So you can actually bring guests, have a lot of people to choose from to have your podcast with who do speak English.